Action fanatics, welcome to another edition of the Bulletproof Podcast. I'm your host, Chris the Brain, and joining me once again, it is the Toyman, Chris DePetrillo.
If you've done any shopping lately, you've probably heard Christmas music already playing in the stores, but the gift to you this week is that the Toyman is back again for the Bulletproof Podcast.
Oh, where's the return line? All right, Ryan Campbell is also with us again.
I am, and I've completely covered my body in mud, Brain, for this podcast, so I'm in the right mental space.
We're not talking about that one, but that's okay. Do what you have to do. It might help the pores or something, I believe. But yeah, we are going to be talking about a brand new movie. We don't do that often here, but Predator Badlands opened last week, and we are going to be talking about that. But I want to remind everybody, if you're listening to this as the show drops, there is still time for you to win a 4K copy of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. U.S. residents only on this one, but you can head over to bulletproofaction.com and enter up to November 12th. On the 13th, I will be randomly drawing the winners for that 4K copy of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. But speaking of 4K, you could bring home the all-new Naked Gun on DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K right now. You could see Liam Neeson like never before as Frank Drebin Jr. as he leads Police Squad in this outrageous comedy, also starring the iconic Pam Anderson. By the film critics are calling one of the funniest movies of the decade, and get nearly an hour of gut-busting extras, including deleted scenes, outtakes, and more, available at participating retailers. Rated PG-13 from Paramount Pictures. But once again, for you, the loyal listeners of the Bulletproof Podcast, you could win a copy, just like you could have won the Mission Impossible. Just go over to bulletproofaction.com, fill out the form, and you will be entered for that. So another big giveaway, Ryan Campbell.
How cool is that? So many of these podcasts, you get used to listening to just ad reads on podcasts, but how many of them just keep giving away free stuff? I mean, that's really awesome that we get to do that.
I'm very excited. And Toyman just mentioned before we hit record that he's seen the new Naked Gun and he really enjoyed it.
I did, yeah. We had a family viewing party because over the summer, we watched the original three with Zach, and he got a big kick out of them. So we watched this one, and this was great. You mentioned Pam Anderson, but also the great Paul Walter Hauser from so many things, but beloved to me as Stingray from Cobra Kai. He did a great job in it as well. Just a lot of stuff. I'm not going to give anything away because we want you to enter the contest. We want you to win a copy. We want you to experience it for yourself. But 2 thumbs up from the Toyman family.
There you go. So you can watch with your family, watch on your own, do what you want. But go to bulletproofaction.com to get yourself a free 4K UHD plus Blu-ray. I mean, this is the top of the line we're giving you, not just the DVD. We've got the top of the line product for you over at bulletproofaction.com. All right, guys, let's talk about it. But, before we talk about it, Ryan Campbell, a little follow-up from, did you go to the movie on your own, or did you have a date to take to this movie?
I went on my own, Brain. The hunt continues.
All right, well, there you go. And we're, of course, talking, again, Predator Badlands. We've all got to the theater for this one. And I think one of the things I did going in, and I think everyone should do if you're going to go see this movie, is remember it is not 1987 and this is not the original Predator, but that's okay. That movie still exists, and it is still, as far as I'm concerned, quite possibly the most perfect of action movies, the most pure of action movies. We talked about it when we talked about it on the show. There's no kids in it. There's no romance. It's just an action movie. And it's fine, and it will forever be fine. It's okay for another movie to come out in that same universe, Ryan Campbell.
Absolutely, yeah. And perfectly normal, and I would argue helps enhance everything.
Right. I mean, and the other, like Predator 2 was nothing like the first Predator either. And I don't remember a huge outrage for that. So
No, I mean, I think, and I touched on it a little bit in my review. I think one of the other things that people were leery on was the switch to PG-13 from an R rating. But as we'll get into, I mean, I think some of that, I think we even talked about this off air before, when 90% of the movie is either aliens or synthetics with white blood or green blood, you weren't going to get it for violence,
Right.
So unless all they really had to do was limit themselves to one F-bomb and they can get that PG-13, because it ain't like, the franchise isn't known for like tons of nudity. So honestly, it's usually just violence. And if everything's synthetics, we've learned the ratings boards don't care how violent you are as long as the blood is not red, essentially.
And I mean, F-bomb, that word does not necessarily exist in the Predator language. And why would they make these fake synthetic humans to be potty mouths? They'd be like they'd be like the perfect specimens. They would not be using such language. So it makes sense there. And it's also, I mean, Toyman, you could certainly relate with this. It's like G.I. Joe when they introduced the battle android troopers. That you can mow those guys down all you want because they're robots. They don't count.
So they were just cannon fodder. The lasers actually hit them.
Right, as opposed to all the other people who never got hit, or if the plane got shot down, they made sure you saw the guys parachuting out of it to safety.
Same reason the turtles made in the cartoon, the foot soldiers were like androids, or their mouse or robots. Leonardo never gets to use his swords unless it's some sort of android.
So yeah, and I will be right there. When you first told me it was PG-13, I was a little bit like, but it didn't really matter. Did not really matter as I got into this movie. We should point out this one was number one at the box office, 40 million domestically, 80 million worldwide, which I believe is a franchise record.
Yeah, that's I just read that a few hours ago that is the most for debut from the franchise, which again, I mean, that's saying something. The first one was kind of a sleeper hit, and I'm not sure if they're counting. I didn't look and see what like the Alien versus Predator movies did. I don't know if they're counting those as like being in the.
I think that had the record before.
Okay.
The first Alien versus Predator.
It's kind of like that they did with Superman, where they're like, well, not counting, team up movies and stuff like that that made more. But either way, huge success. I'm glad. I'm happy for them. I like the direction they're going with it, and it's always leery with the way these studios are. One bad weekend and that's it. We just saw that with Tron. I liked Tron Ares. Movie bombed the first weekend, and like by Monday the news was out like, yeah, they were shutting down the franchise. Nothing else is ever coming out.
I mean, everyone loves Jared Leto though, so I don't understand why that movie didn't do well.
I know. I'm not arguing that. I mean, I get it. I get why people weren't excited for it. But I did like the movie, and honestly, you can go check out my review. I think in the context of the character Jared Leto is playing, it kind of works. But how do you sell that to people? Like I get it. It just sucks because I think
he's got a stink on him that ain't coming off.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's going to cost the franchise. So we're not going to be getting any more Tron probably for another 20 years, maybe before somebody thinks they can resurrect it again. But regardless. I'm glad it did well, so that we can keep diving into this universe, because I think Dan Trachtenberg really is kind of finding his niche within this Predator verse.
Yeah, and we get a very unique main character. This is the first time this has ever happened in franchise history, Ryan Campbell, because we've got Deck. He's a Predator.
Yeah,
he's our protagonist, not our antagonist.
A nice little flip. I mean, it's kind of the formula so far has always been the Predator is kind of less seen and kind of dropped in, sometimes not even as like a technically antagonist, but almost just like force of nature. And then the movie takes place around like a group of humans that have to interact with them. So yeah, we're definitely kind of flipping the script and making a Predator the main character, and also kind of not, we'll get into it why, but maybe not like the highest form of Predator. So it's maybe a little bit more sympathetic Predator. So a bold move. And I think I keep saying I noted this in my review because I just wrote it a day ago, but if you want to the only way to make a Predator sympathetic is to make the enemy that fucking Weyland-Yutani Corporation.
no one's going to cheer for a corporation. And I think he's the runt of the litter. He's automatically an underdog, and right from the beginning, Toyman, we get his own father wants him eliminated. So I mean, how can you not get right behind this guy?
Yeah, he's like the Spike Dudley of his predator
Mm-hmm.
clan. Like they don't believe that he can measure up to what his family has done, and it's like, you're weak. We need to kill him. We need to destroy him. And unlike Spike Dudley, he actually has a brother who sticks up for him.
He does, and that cost him. And I guess we probably should have said this at the start, but obviously we're going to be talking spoilers here, folks. So if you have not seen it, uh, we're talking spoilers. So wait, go see it. I encourage you to go see it because this was really a very good. I went in not knowing exactly what I was going to get, and the characters are good, and it tells a great story. And anything you might be worried about, you're just worrying over nothing, quite honestly.
Yeah, and I think this opening really establishes that, like right up front, that
Right.
we're still dealing with the same Yautja, the warrior race, the way they cull and strain through adversity. Like we're not retconning anything to make a sympathetic, predator. Like no, that all the rules still apply, all the same rules still apply. And it's because of that circumstance that we find, this character in it. So still respects all the lore that they've spent the last, 30 years building up. But it just kind of peels back the layers and we're just taking a little bit deeper look.
Well, to that point, Ryan, too, I think if if you have the most basic knowledge of the lore, this movie works because I went to see it with Zach. I took my 10-year-old son, and unlike some of the other movies that I've taken him to where I would show him the previous movies or, get him all into it, he knows the most about the Predator, not from watching the previous movies, which is something I intend to do with him, but from reading a lot of the Marvel Comics crossovers. He's got the Predator versus Wolverine book. So he has the basic fundamental knowledge of what I've told him about the original film and what he's read in the comics. So almost as like an origin story type of thing, this movie works just as much as it works as an addendum to all the other films that people like you and me and Brain have already seen.
Oh yeah, I don't pretend to know everything that happens with them in the comics, but I do know the comic fans are super pleased with the movie. They're not that there's like a riff for me, but the fans of like the comics and some of the deeper stuff seem to be really happy with the film.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to realize that the Predator is not just like a single character. This is a whole race of beings.
Yeah, and I think it helps that make them that they aren't just mindless machines built for killing. Like it is part of a culture and a mythos around them, but still they're sentient beings that this is happening to. So yeah, that brother does have feelings for his brother, and sure, the cultural dogma they've built up might mean that his brother needs to die, but that's still his brother. So there's naturally, it's your pack, it's your clan. You have emotions built around that. And I think the opening does a good job of establishing that, they aren't mindless machines, that there is something there, but they're also a very strong, devoted warrior race type.
Right. Yeah. And, everyone, they're all different. They're all going to have a different story. They're all going to take a different path. And this movie certainly takes a different path from the other movies. But again, that's not a bad thing. It's absolutely a good thing in this situation because the story is excellent. So yeah, Deck has to prove himself. So he goes to the Death Planet, which right there is terrifying. And you get into this world, and I mean, it's aptly named because everything is dangerous or poisonous, or the trees can kill you.
It's like a sentient planet. Like it's not just the things that live there, the organisms that live there, but the actual landscape. We see spoiler alert, like the vines coming to life. That's like his first battle is against just like picture what Groot can do, but they're just coming from everywhere and you don't know, it's not coming from an actual creature, it's the actual planet feeling that something's wrong, something's off, I need to attack this thing, whether it's a defense mechanism or it's just a living torture device.
And this is kind of one of the first, they don't like go super deep into it, but this is kind of the first Alien Earth kind of tie-ins that we see for any of that kind of watch those is a lot of the specimens in that show that populate the entire first season came from this planet. So for those that watch that show, they kind of and just saw like a glimpse of just how nightmare fuel this planet can be. And now we're getting a bigger idea as we see what maybe some of the specimens that were in the show, like there is, and I don't know if they ever established that it is the same thing, but there is this like podded plant that sticks vines out and like attacks them and everything. My guess is that little pod could eventually grow into like the forest. I'm assuming is what they're trying to, again, not confirmed, but that would be is if that thing left unchecked could grow into the monster within the forest. So nice little tie-in. You don't have to know that. It doesn't deter from the movie at all. You don't have to watch Alien Earth to get it, right. But a nice little kind of something for those of us that watch the show.
And then Deck finds himself, he's going like through a field of these almost like kind of like Venus flytrap type things, but they have like spikes that shoot out at you. And again, it's like,
this is like the Australia of the universe, Brian.
Right, exactly. He's in the outback and he doesn't have Outback Jack to help him, or Crocodile Dundee for that matter. But he does have someone who helps him, Ryan Campbell, as we are introduced to another character, or at least maybe I should say half a character.
Yeah, and this is something where, I mean, they kind of gave it away, because I don't know how you could have established or promoted the movie without doing it, but pretty significant moment that this is within this first realm. I mean, concrete evidence that Alien and Predator are in the same universe, as we find a Weyland-Yutani synthetic trapped in like a nest that she calls it the vulture nest, with only half of her body there. And we're introduced to Thea, who is yelling out to the Yautja. Interesting enough that a few things that we establish in this moment is, I guess, humanity is aware of the existence of the Yautja, not just within like lore, but like they know the species name, they know about their past, like they know a lot about them as a species. So a little bit hazy. We don't know when this movie takes place, judging by like the tech and what the look of the Weyland-Yutani stuff. I'm imagining we're pretty far in the future based on like where we've been around Alien Earth and Romulus and all the stuff we've seen lately. Seems like it's pretty far in the future, but pretty cool. So Thea's hollering out tips about that any of those needles will paralyze him, and kind of tries to use this moment to, hey, I'll help you out. You help me out. Come get me out of this nest. But significant moment that we've established that obviously we're not counting the Alien versus Predator movies within kind of the timeline that we've established now, this existing timeline. Those movies kind of take place in an alternate, universe, but establishing that it's not just Easter eggs or not just clever little nods, that yes, full stop, these two movies, these two franchises take place in the same universe.
And Toyman, this is certainly not Deck doesn't jump right into this partnership. There is some reluctance on his part, and she has to kind of use her brain power to kind of convince him to team up.
She convinces him that because she's an android, she's not a human, she's not a target, but she can be a tool. Right. So in order to hunt, in order to find his prey, which we should mention, he is looking for the Callisk on this planet, which, he's claiming that he's going to kill the one thing that his father could not do and prove that he is better than what his father claims him to be. But yes, to your point, she basically convinces him, look, I know I've been here. I've studied this planet. I know what it's all about. I know what these different things can do. You can utilize me. And before you know it, she is strapped to his back like I can't say human backpack because she's not a human, but he's towing her around the planet and she's calling the shots, for lack of a better term, because he is, like you said, he's a sympathetic character. He's the protagonist. So he's not just out there, he's not able to cloak himself. He doesn't have that option yet. He's in unfamiliar territory. So he is the one that's being surprised by what's going on. So realistically, he needs her as a guide, because if not, it's been proven that he is not capable of fielding this on his own.
Yeah, and it's a good point too that she said, I'm a tool. He's not going out there barehanded trying to kill anything. He's got his weapons. He doesn't have all the weapons, but he does come with some weapons. And Ryan, I have to imagine that you had a bit of a flashback, as I did, to a little Chewbacca with C-3PO on his back.
Yep, I was going to say, they were definitely giving off a Empire Strikes Back 3PO backpack vibe, even with the kind of wisecracking, nonstop, incessant talking androids. That was definitely the vibe they were going for. I would say Chewie's probably a little bit softer than Dak, but yeah, definitely harkens back to that.
I was going to say Han Solo would have put her off switch on at some point. He wasn't going to deal with that talking. So yeah, we get these two are together, but now we get another creature involved here, which they refer to as Bud.
Yeah, so we don't know much about Bud at this moment, other than he's the only thing that we've encountered on this planet that hasn't tried to kill Dak yet. Mm-hmm. But they come up on a field of razor sharp, like glass-like reeds of I think she calls it like razor grass or something like that.
I believe she did.
Yeah, razor grass.
Yeah. So Dak's getting hungry and he's trying to hunt this giant monstrosity thing for some food. And then he sees that Bud can just roll straight through, or just go straight through the field, because he has adapted obviously to the environment, and can kind of make his skin rock hard and just walk right through it. So that starts in this entire sequence, and eventually there's a stampede and they're jumping through the trees and everything. But now we've introduced our Grogu-like character, so we're going to add some Mandalorian in there as well, as we've got our alien companion child-like figure in there as well.
And if you want to get rock hard like Bud, go to Hims. Oh, wait, we don't have that sponsor.
Blue Chew. Oh, yeah.
We don't have any of those yet. Okay. So yeah, Bud. And I can imagine people might at first not like Bud.
Yeah, I got a little worried when it happened. I was like, because again, like you, Brain, I was aware of a few things, but I deliberately was trying not to not know a lot. I knew obviously that we had a Yacha protagonist. I knew about the Weyland-Yutani synthetic. That was it. I tried not to know too much about the plot, and credit to them, they made it pretty easy. They weren't, super forthcoming with what the plot was, which mainly because it's fairly simple. They probably could have easily given it away. So I wasn't aware that there was this Bud type character, but as soon as they introduced him, I thought, oh no, just because it's sad that I watch movies now and my brain kind of starts finding what the YouTube critical drinker, geeks and gamers, like that stupid form of YouTube are going to pick apart, and what's going to be like the thumbnails, like, the wokeification, because they had this character in there. And I was like, here we go. But my theater was laughing. My theater seemed to be down for it. And then from what I could tell on Twitter and just kind of trying to gauge the response afterwards, seemed like people seemed to be cool with it. So that was a pleasant surprise, because I really liked Bud.
Yeah, my theater wasn't too. I went on Thursday, so it wasn't like jam packed. The showing I went to, I think the one was though, because I think the one at 7:30 may have been pretty much sold out, because it showed up on when I went to go first get tickets, and then all of a sudden when I went to go pick a seat, it aired out on me, and I'm like, oh, what the hell is this about? So then I had to go to the 8 o'clock. But the theater was reacting positively to just about everything that was going on. So I was also kind of relieved, because I'm like, oh, here, it harkened back to episode 1.
Yeah.
Where they're like,
oh, here's the Jar Jar. Yeah.
They're adding cutesy stuff. They're just trying to sell toys.
If you went in there pissed off about it not being rated R, this was a moment that you probably were.
Yep.
Here we go. We got to add the stupid.
They were going to kidify it. Like, here we go. We're trying to bring in the younger audience. We're trying to like Marvel this thing.
Right.
I think how it works though is because they don't compromise Dak enough. Like, obviously Dak is a little softer, and I think some of that is because he is a runt and he's had a rough upbringing. Like, he's developed a little bit more empathy than probably your typical Yacha, but he's still, for most movie intensive purposes, the straight man, like tough exterior. And he maintains that enough through most of the film without just completely giving it away at the first sign of a cute creature.
Yeah.
So I think that helps them play off each other. So we already got the buddy cop vibe. So we're kind of taking like a buddy cop, but also like a Mandalorian child. And now we're kind of mixing and playing with the bowls of tropes. So they make it work. Credit to them for making it work. But like you said, Brain, I'll get a little nervous at this point.
Right. I mean, and he does basically abandon Bud at one point. He's like, well, he served his purpose. We're moving on. Even though Thea is trying to say, hey, Bud saved you. Bud's marked you as part of his.
I was going to say, yeah, but not before Bud marks him, which is key.
Right. Which does come into play. What else? Oh, let's talk about what we assume Toyman is the big bad in the movie.
We're talking about the Callisk,
of
target
course.
of Deck. So that was the thing that threw me off, because I'm like, it can't be this obvious, because obviously watching so many movies, reading so many books, it's like, okay, so he's on this planet, he's promised to do this thing, you're rooting for this guy, he's got this android. Where does the twist come into play? And it was almost like a twofold twist, because not only do we encounter the Callisk very early on after this, but then we get a little bit of a curveball where there's some more involvement from the android party and the corporation side, because Thea is not alone. She has a synthetic sister who is now on the hunt for her, and worlds are about to collide. So what you think is kind of the straight path, the hero's journey, by midpoint in this movie, it gets all thrown for a loop. And I think that's where the movie really picked up. I think in the beginning of the film, and Zach mentioned this to me too, it's a bit of a slow burn. It's not boring, but it's basically introducing you to these different things, the different aspects of the planet, the knowledge from Thea. So you're kind of like, okay, well, when is something going to happen? This is a Predator movie, and we're kind of just getting some knowledge. It's almost like, pop quiz, Predator, did you know this? And at the midpoint, you see this one thing happen involving the Callisk, and you're kind of like, oh, like it's subtle yet obvious. But then once the corporation does their part, and Tessa, the android sister of Thea, makes her appearance, both roles played by Elle Fanning, by the way, then you're like, oh, okay. So this could actually go a couple of different ways. And spoiler alert, I like where they went with it, because all of that knowledge from like those first 20 minutes, half hour, comes in very handy for young Deck for the climax of the film.
Yeah, I mean, the movie definitely gets off to like a hot start, but then we take it down, and we're world building. Literally, we're watching the Death Planet being all mapped out for us, and but the corporation, Ryan Campbell,
always the corporation. And I will give credit to Weyland Yutani. Again, this is one of the, I think, signs that this is pretty far in the future. They've finally learned to stop sending humans into these environments, because they've now have an entirely synthetic force. It's not like we've seen in the other Alien movies where you've got one synthetic with a bunch of truckers or, scientists and anything. Yeah. It's all a completely synthetic force led by Thea and Tessa. And then they've got the Cameron Brown, I think, is who plays the kind of male soldier type. But man, I would love to have seen the budget on cast for this film, Brain, because I think there's literally like 3 people in this film, because you have Elle Fanning, again, props to her, who does an amazing job playing both Thea and Tessa. The kind of tone switch she does between the two is pretty amazing, the way she's able to play both characters. But again, we mentioned Cameron Brown playing pretty much all the soldier guys. There's only one other type of, and then you have Deck. And then I guess we do have like his brother and father and kind of book in the movies. But other than that, like that's it. And there's like 5 people in this movie.
I wonder what SAG thinks about it.
About the using,
how does
it's
that
not
work?
quite. It's funny because it's not quite AI replacing characters, but you do have one character playing 50 different AI.
Pay them 50 times, or how does that work? I'm wondering. But yeah, so we get that, and basically, I mean, the story is what really matters here. Is you care about what's going to happen to Deck, and to Toyman's point, at first it's like, oh, well, they're getting to this callus thing really quick. That seems odd, and then, well, we get into a whole new area where Deck kind of starts, he doesn't have his tribe. He doesn't have his family. The one person who cared about him was his brother. And
who died trying to vouch for him to be alive,
So he knows, like, even if he accomplishes whatever he needs to accomplish, he's not going to go back and be like, hey, Dad, everything's great with us.
Well, I think that's one of the key points is, like, none of this causes him to abandon his cultural beliefs in a way. Like, he's been casted out by his father. It's cost his brother his life, but that's not enough for him to be like, screw all of this. He's still, like, in that world. And he's like, no, if I go and get the Khalees and come back, not only am I going to show my father, but then I'm going to get my revenge within the confines of the kind of culture that I'm existing in a way. So, like, he's still kind of playing the game within the boundaries, but from his viewpoint is changing. So we're kind of on that journey with him, as opposed to him just immediately being like, F all of it,
Yeah, that's a great point, because usually when you see something like that happen, your tribe, your family, they turn on you. You basically blacklist them. Like, I'm not going to let that be me. I'm not going to grow up like this. I'm going to change our ways. I'm going to do things for the better. And Deck is still Predator, and he's still, I mean, in the beginning, especially when he first encounters Thea, I mean, he, for lack of a better term, he's still kind of a dick. Like,
Yep.
I don't need you. No, you do need me. Like, I'm a tool. No, I don't. He ditches Bud. So even though he's the protagonist, he's not 100% sympathetic. He still has that rough edge.
Oh yeah, and even in his culture, he's seen as weak and soft. So, like, and to us, he's still, very thick-skinned and rough exterior. But in his culture, he deserves to die for even having, like, the shreddest of empathy.
Yeah. Again, run to the litter there. And yeah, I like and we talked about it, and there's a lot of carnage in here. There's a lot of all of that. And you might think, well, but it's PG-13. But as you pointed out, Ryan, when it's just like milk spraying out,
right,
predator blood, it's not nearly as graphic as seeing freaking blood, red blood and guts, like you would see in a freaking horror movie, or
right. When the spines and skulls that you're ripping out are metal and covered in milk, it's not as bad. Yes,
right, absolutely. What else do we want to say about this movie, Ryan Campbell? Any other thoughts you'd like to share? Because you mentioned the cast, which is short or small, but effective. I did enjoy the dual role for Elle Fanning. She, as you said, fantastic. I mean, you love one character and absolutely hate the other.
Yeah, she does. And again, interesting to see, like, two mentions the idea that they were given the ability to have feelings, which is, again, pushing everything down the line, because up until now, the Weyland-Yutani, they stopped doing that. If to start going, let's go all the way back to Prometheus and that whole world. Like, the first android, David, did have feelings, and they realized, ooh, that's a bad idea. Let's turn that back. So then all the androids going forward, all the way through Alien and Alien Romulus and all the other aliens, that switch is kind of flipped off. Well, now we meet Thea and Tessa, and we learn that they've kind of, I guess, come full circle, and now that they're giving some feelings back to the androids so that they can better, empathize with the planet and kind of figure out how these beings work, and we learn from Thea actually kind of use that against them. So we're kind of, establishing, so that lets the characters of the androids be more characters, because it's really hard to play a character without emotion as when you're one of, like, the primary characters. It works when you're a side thing on a cast of 20 different people, or, we're used to these movies having a crew of 10 or 12, and there's the one android that plays the straight man or whatever it is, like Bishop in Aliens or something like that. When you're, like, going to carry a significant portion of the film, that's really hard to do without being able to convey emotion. So allowing Elle Fanning to switch back and forth between Thea and Tessa, I think, was a nice choice. And she does, we just said, she does a fantastic job doing it.
And there are some naturally, like, funny moments in the movie. I think one of my favorites is where Thea gets her legs and she's trying to repair herself, and she's almost got the legs back on when the action comes and just splits her right back in half.
Oh yeah, that got a huge pop in my theater. I was not expecting it. Like I'm thinking like, okay, she's gonna get her legs back, and then for the third act of the film, they're gonna be like a team. And then, I mean, she's not one stitch away from being back together. Dak gets thrown through the trailer that she's kind of working in and splits her legs back apart. That was a good bit.
Beautiful. And again, it's like the humor that's in it is just, it's happening naturally. It's not like they're doing a little aside, like, okay, let's put on a little show here for everybody. It comes in,
and that humor carries into the third act, because that's not the last we see of the leg situation.
So
that's actually a huge plot point for the third act too. So what you think is kind of that throwaway moment is, again, that's one great thing this movie did, is everything, even to the smallest degree of a comment or that's what this is, or this is what we did, everything builds up into something else in the movie.
There's a lot of Chekhov's things in this movie that pay off by the end.
Yeah, there's no wasted dialogue. There's a lot of exposition, and that was the point I was making earlier. There's a lot of exposition in the beginning, but when you see it all come together, it's just great, because the action sequence in the third act, and now when you're fully invested in these characters, and then again, the stuff with the Calisk, there's again like that subtle moment where you're like, okay, I kind of see where this is going, and then after the main portion of the third act, now you've got the bookend portion that Ryan brought up, where we're still dealing with Dek being ostracized by his own father. So we've got the Calisk to deal with. We've got the androids to deal with. We've got Thea. We've got Bud. We've got this planet attacking us at our every step. And how do we survive that? And that the whole point of this movie and why he's here is still because of his father. So his problems are kind of compounded now. So it's even more interesting to see how they get out of one situation, because that other situation is still open-ended.
Well, I think to your point, like there is some exposition, but they do it in a creative way. It's not done in like he finds a file and all of a sudden we just all watch a PowerPoint of like the planet. It's we learn it experience it through his eyes, because this is also his first time. So like the needle things and finding those little bugs that explode. And of course, like as soon as he found the bugs that explode, I'm like, I know we're coming back to that at some point.
Right.
But the way we're learning it as this new world that's dangerous, and he's encountering the next little thing, then the next little thing, and Thea's helping him get through it. Each single one of those things is going to come back in the end, in the third act, when he becomes this like organic predator in a way. He even loses his like little gun and replaces it with one of those little creatures that spits like acid. So it all gets a payoff, like you said, Toyman, there's like Chekhov's needle, Chekhov's slimy creature, Chekhov's blow up worm, whatever it may be, it all comes back.
So I'm going to make my my required old school reference of the night. It has nothing to do with soap or Barney Miller or anything, but Brain, you will probably appreciate this. Ryan, I don't know how deep into Masters of the Universe lore you go, but when he was using that creature as it was like a snake-like creature, and it was like a stand-in for his Trigun, Brain, that reminded me of the Dragon Blaster Skeletor figure.
You know what reference I thought you were going to make, Toyman?
What did you think?
Had to do with the legs. And I thought you were going to make a Herbie Hancock Rocket music video reference.
I was not going to make a Herbie Hancock reference, nor was I going to make a ZZ Top reference. You were safe on both of those counts.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too. Very good. Ryan Campbell, anything else you want to say?
Brandon, I want to ask, did you think it was deliberate that they did a lot of kind of similar threads between Dek and Dutch, to the point that they even kind of sound similar? Because we're used to seeing the Predator as the one with the toys and all the fancy gadgets battling, a human who's in the wilderness having to live off the land and kind of construct things. And we get a nice flip here where the humans now have all of his weapons. They've gone back to his ship.
Artillery, yeah.
They got first of all, they have all the technology of themselves. Plus they go back to his ship and get all his shit. So he's like finding all these things. He
Right,
uses
Dad has to use the land. He has to
right.
use
He
what's around
uses.
him.
I really thought when he's like putting all that together, they kind of have the turning point in the film where he takes the bison skin and makes like a jacket. He takes the bug and makes it to get a new gun, and he takes those the razor blade grass
The
and
razor grass, yeah.
makes like a thing out of it. He takes the tooth from the callus and makes a weapon out of it. I'm like, if he smears like some mud over him, I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna be a step too far. I don't know how I'm gonna feel if he covers himself in mud, but he didn't. He didn't. They didn't go that far.
They didn't need to. He
No.
wasn't trying to camouflage himself from these freaking synthetic bastards.
No, but they definitely flipped the script and put the Predator in that role to where he was almost like a Dutch. And I mean, naming him Dak, it seemed like that was a kind of deliberate choice.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but now that you mention it, yeah, I can see it. I can see it for sure.
Which I did read an article that apparently they're trying to get Arnold now to come back as Dutch.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, just like it's kind of it reminds me of X-Men First Class. I watched this recently. And I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was absolutely great and refreshing. Yeah. And then as soon as it got successful, they shoehorned everybody from the past back into it. And then it kind of lost its vision and went off the rails again and ended. And I'm just leery about injecting too much.
I think
to be fair, that's just the X-Men franchise in general, because it's been the same way with the books. Like, you can't really pick up an X-Men book nowadays, and I know they just rebooted them recently, like within the last year. But
House of X and Powers of 10 was really good. I really like the Krakoa stuff. But yes,
see, they do, yeah, they do the big events like the Krakoa stuff and the Hellfire Gala and all that stuff, and it's like the big event's over, and then everything kind of starts small. Then there's the big event again. And now they're just mixing the teams up, and this one dies.
They always take it back to the status quo, which is, but
well,
I don't know. I mean, go ahead, Brian.
I think we've already kind of established, we talked about at the beginning. I mean, is there a opportunity somewhere? If the story is right, you could work Dutch back in. It might not have to do anything with what we're seeing here in Badlands. I mean, like Prey. I mean, Prey was a great film, and it had nothing to do with anything. It was just another Predator story. So is there another way to work Dutch back in?
Well, I guess I'm remembering now. They've kind of already done it. So if you guys watched the Hulu animated movie, The Killer of Killers short.
I missed that.
Again, this is, I guess, a spoiler for it. If you watched Predator Badlands but didn't watch that one, this is a spoiler for that. There's like a post credit where we find out that on the Yacha homeworld, they've like captured and cryogenically frozen essentially anyone who's ever beaten a predator. So we scan across these tubes and we see the character from Prey. I can't remember her name right now, but she's in one. And then like one of the last ones is Dutch. So I'm just remembering this now. They've already kind of established.
So there you go. So somehow that could all tie in and
of course it was like young Dutch. I don't know. They'd have to cast he'd have to do de-aging for the entire role, whatever they would come up with, but they love doing that stuff, so I guess they can
put his son in there. I don't know. Yeah, I mean that would be interesting though. Again, it's all about the story, and if you have a good story and you can, it makes sense. If you, to your point, Ryan, if they're shoehorning them, then no, that's probably not going to work. But if you
hopefully they trust. I think Dan's got a good grasp on it. He directed Prey. He directed that short film, the animated film. He directed this one. If they trust him and the studio suits don't inject themselves too much into it, then I think he could probably figure it out. But hopefully they're not like, they just see money sign and then just start fucking with it too much, like they tend to do.
Right. Toyman, what did Zach think of it? Because obviously this is probably the most family-friendly Predator of all time. His thoughts.
So he gave it a solid 7 out of 10 rating. He said that he thought that the beginning dragged a little bit. He was kind of like, okay, I get it. Like, let's pick up the pace. But once that midpoint hit, the battle in the little junkyard area, from like that point on, he was fully invested. He has always wanted to watch at least the original. He knows there's more lore out there. He loves the Predator versus Wolverine book that he read recently, and he's got does he have another one? Because the writer of Ghost Rider right now, Ed Brisson, has been doing the Predator stuff. So I think Zach really digs his writing style. So he is into the Predator as a character and learning more. This being a gateway for him,
Mm-hmm.
I almost felt like if he didn't like it, it might be a harder sell for the past stuff. But if anything, he's like, that was really good. He's like, I still want to see the old stuff, but that was really good. It kind of surprised him that he liked it as much without knowing anything else film wise about these characters.
And that's, you got to jump in at some point on anything. And, when you can just jump in and get into something, I mean, that's a good sign that they've done that they've done it right. I also wanted to mention, like, I remember thinking when Predator 2 came out and Dutch wasn't in it, I remember thinking, how the hell are you going to do a Predator without Dutch?
Bold choice, yeah.
It's like, and it took me a long time to see Predator 2 because of that. I'm like, why would you even bother? But again, these are different Predators. These are, there's a million different stories. It would be like saying whatever first movie you ever saw with humans, that every movie had to be just the same way as those, it's ridiculous. So.
And it is credit to them for taking, even this being a bold choice, in that after Prey was successful, like the common kind of thought among, fans and still on Twitter was that here's the template going forward. Just take a Predator and drop them into like feudal Japan, drop them into maybe like a future one set on like a prison, whatever, or like just take small scale films, that aren't a Predator movie and drop a Predator into it. Take like a troop during the Civil War and drop a Predator into it. It felt like that was an endless, rinse, repeat, endless. And they are like, nope, we're going to make one the protagonist and kind of do this entirely different thing. So, and so again, props to them for figuring it out and having a vision and sticking to it. And I don't know if we talked about this, but they're set up for more sequels with Deck, and
I hope so. He was, I love that character.
Yeah. So I assume he goes back to his home world, gets his revenge, and then Mom shows up, and who knows how that's going to go.
It's a clip. Yeah. The female of the species is more deadly than the male.
It's usually how it works.
Remember that. So that should be nice little cliffhanger, nice little opening for, oh shit, what's next for Deck and his new tribe that he has formed.
Yes, Bud's a little bigger, and my assumption is he seems to be growing at an alarming rate. So you give him another week or so, he might be full on Kalisk at that point.
Yeah, it's a ragtag bunch, and you can't help but love a ragtag bunch.
He's got his own little kind of Guardians of the Galaxy going.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. It's like the Predator version of Guardians of the Galaxy. That was the perfect comparison.
He's got his Groot that's growing at an alarming rate.
He does. So there you go. Final thoughts, Toyman, on Predator Badlands.
Solid entry. I enjoyed it. I have to admit, I am surprised by how good it is doing, but that's a testament to how easy the film is to get into. I think, like you said, it's a good point to jump in if you haven't. And if you're a fan, you're going to appreciate kind of going with a little bit of a twist to the Predator story, having them actually be the hero of the story and going a little bit deeper into what makes them tick, I guess you could say. And I like the fact that it's appealing to a new audience because with the PG-13, yeah, I'm not going to Ryan's point, it's not about being woke or anything like that, but if you get a younger audience involved, whether they're 15, 16, or whatever, it's a movie they can go see with their friends. Now they're going to go home and throw on whatever streaming service might have Predator 1, Predator 2. So you're going to earn new fans of the franchise as a whole through this movie because it can serve as a gateway, because it's not requiring you to know about Dutch, about what happened in Predator 2, about what happened in Aliens versus Predator. Yeah, there's some Easter eggs in there, but this is basically, a story built from scratch that allows the old fans and the new fans both to enjoy it equally.
It's interesting because as a franchise, I think one of the reasons, like you mentioned, Toyman, that you were kind of surprised by the success. It's definitely like a franchise that I don't think people have ever really felt was overexposed or really soured on. I mean, I know some of them have had mixed results. I think there's been redeeming qualities about every single one of them. I've kind of liked going back to the Predators and what was the one with
It's just the Predator.
the
The
Predator?
Predator.
Yeah, the Predator.
The one with Keegan Michael Key and everybody.
I can't remember which one is the one with Adrian Brody.
Predators was the prison planet. That was Adrian
Brody.
Brody. And the Predator was the one with like Keegan Michael Key, where he was like the wacky guy. And everything.
Yeah. The one that Shane Black I think directed was that one.
Yes, yep.
Yeah. So like they all like some of them have been mixed results, but none of them have really just killed the franchise. And it seems to be the Yautja as a character, people just can't seem to get enough of. Like whether it's like you mentioned, whether it's comics or it's throwing them into video games or tie-ins or its own film every 3 or 4 years. They're not like pumping them out every year. So I think there continues to be an appetite for this world and for this lore and this kind of mystique they've built up around the Yautja and Predator that it just seems to just keep enduring, kind of like Alien to compare it to that as well.
So you just reminded me too, Ryan, because it was actually one of the Mortal Kombats that we have that was Zach's first exposure to the Predator. It was back maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. He was playing one of the Mortal Kombats on Xbox, and he's like, "Who's this guy?" I'm like, "Oh, that's Predator. He's not a Mortal Kombat guy. He's Predator from Predator." And he used to play as Predator all the time. And at the time, Walmart was doing Alien and Predator figures. They weren't, I wouldn't call them cheap toys, but it was one of like the lesser known toy companies. They were producing them exclusively for Walmart.
Well, aren't they
So
like
he
they're
actually had,
retro ones too? Aren't they supposed to look like the old ones from like I remember
yes.
seeing like
And they have like a couple, the city predator, the jungle predator. They have like a couple of different ones. And he has a couple of the predators that he mixed in with like his Masters of the Universe guys. So it's actually, he's been a fan of Predator for a while, and then he kind of like, forgot about it. And then he saw the Marvel Comics crossovers, and they're actually doing like some standalone series too of just Predator and just Alien as well, not just like the crossovers with superheroes. And then when I was like, "Hey, we're gonna do Predator Badlands for the podcast. Do you want to come see it with me?" He's like, "Yeah, but do I need to see the other ones?" And I'm like, "I don't think so." I'm like, "You can, but we really don't have time for it." And then to go into it and be, basically blind by only knowing this from other aspects of entertainment, video games and toys and comics and stuff like that, it really hit a nerve with him where he's like, "That was cool. I want to see more Predator now."
I mean, that's all kids need. Like that's all we did. That's all they did back in the day. You got a toy line and like a Happy Meal tie-in, and if the character looked cool enough, we were hooked. That was it. So there definitely seems to be a smart, coordinated effort on I guess 20th Century Fox to kind of rebuild this with a younger audience by toys, video games, an animated movie, and now a PG-13 theatrical release that are all kind of reinforcing and building a new generation of Predator fans, which is cool.
I'm almost curious, like if kids see this one first, if they go back, will they be like, why are these people trying to kill the Predator? Like, he's a good guy. I don't know. Will they be confused? It also kind of is similar to another Arnold franchise that, in the first Terminator, Arnold was the bad guy. Yeah. And after that, he became the good guy. So
James Cameron got a hold of it, and which, well, that was Aliens, but that's another one that Cameron got a hold of and kind of flipped on its head.
Cameron, he was in it from the beginning on Terminator, but yeah,
that's right.
They turned Arnold's Terminator into the savior, and we got the slimy, sinister Robert Patrick as
that's the opposite of what we're talking about here, where there was no vision for that franchise, and they just keep pumping out shit after shit and trying to revive it and taking Arnold out and then shoving him back in. And no vision whatsoever, no united kind of
focus. And that's because when you look at the box office for T2, it's like, well, we need to capture some of that again. Where Predator, again, they've always done well, but it was never like just like they owned the summer that came out. It did well, they performed well, but
was the original Terminator an R and then Judgment Day PG-13, or was Judgment Day R as well?
I think Judgment Day
was still R. Yeah,
I thought so. Yeah.
But the original Terminator was one of those ones. I mean, it was, but it just kind of snuck up on people. Like nobody knew what the hell that was, and then it just became a thing. And then you had years. I mean, what was it, like 6 or Was it 6? When did it?
That's how it used to be, man. I remember when even when
you had
got
to wait.
3
I mean,
years
that's the
before
thing.
each release of
Yeah,
movies back in the day.
you had to wait. You had to wait, but it kind of helped because it built up anticipation for it. And by the time it came out, of course, sometimes it didn't always work that way, but most of the time it did. So, all right, Ryan Campbell, have you shared your final thoughts? I don't think you have.
I mean, I really enjoyed it. I feel like there's a lot as I was sitting there and watching it and mentally trying to take notes about what I was thinking and what I enjoyed. I know I'm forgetting stuff. There's a lot of moments in that third act, and like you said, the legs and the way they're kind of playing off each other, the interactions between Tessa and Thea as Tessa kind of betrays Thea, but Thea also kind of betrays the predator. But then he also, there's a lot of like betraying, but then, uneasy alliances. So there's a lot of really good dynamics within the film between the characters. None of them seem inauthentic, but also none of them seem like kind of cheap or just to move the plot along. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a tight movie. It seems like, I think it's a pretty quick watch. It's not overly heavy on like lore building or whatever. It's a pretty self-contained story within like a really large universe. So it's just enough to kind of tease you. And if you want to learn more, you're going to dive right in and find a whole bunch of stuff. But I mean, I really enjoyed it. I was hopeful I would. I guess we're going to talk about next week about Running Man, but I was really excited for November and that we were going to get a Predator movie and a Running Man movie. But I would say with both of them, I've been somewhat tepid in like how I thought they were going to be. Like, I thought I was pretty sure I was going to like Predator because I like everything, but you never know going into it, like what they're going to do with it. But I was pleasantly surprised with that. And I feel very similar about Running Man next week. I've liked everything I've seen so far, but is it going to be like Total Recall? Is it going to be like so many of these other, movies around that time that they've remade and haven't worked out? So cautiously optimistic about that one as well. But I was really pleased with Predator Badlands. I'm glad to see others felt the same way because to go back to Tron Ares, I liked that one as well. And of course that nobody liked that movie. So me coming out of the theater liking it is not a good barometer on if the movie's going to be successful or not. So I'm pleased to see that rewarded with the movie doing really well, Brain. But I really enjoyed it.
It was good news that Arnold himself saw The Running Man already and gave his seal of approval.
Ooh, I did not see that. That's good. That's good.
Yes.
I think Edgar Wright is a appropriate director to I think he can kind of match that kind of absurdity and insanity of the film. So I'm excited for it. And
one I was definitely more like, okay, this should be good. Everything again basing on what I saw, and of course everyone's like, well, of course they're going to show you the best stuff in the trailer, but I don't know. I feel that one.
You like Predator, you said,
I didn't know what the hell to expect, and I really. So maybe, it might be flipped. I might be like, you know what? I actually like Predator better than I like The Running Man. I guess.
But you can kind of tell sometimes by how a studio promotes a film what they think they have. And I mentioned this to you, Brain. Like they're running Winter Olympics ads on NBC for The Running Man, which is kind of insane. So it does seem like they've got Powell out there doing all kinds of media. Like they're letting people talk about it a week in advance, which is always a good sign. Usually when nobody's talking about a movie when it's less than a week out, and that's not a good sign that they're trying
to get as many people.
Right. They're trying to keep
the word gets out.
They're trying to keep the lid on and before you can go on Fandango and refund your pre-ordered tickets or whatever. But so yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hopefully that's all good signs. I'm excited for next week as well.
Yes. Again, I went in with, I wouldn't say like a low bar. I just did not know what I was getting myself into. And it was a real pleasant experience. And, obviously there's a lot of CGI involved in this, but it was never like overwhelming CGI, which you can get sometimes in these, visual effect heavy movies. It never was like, oh, this is just too freaking much.
Oh no. I thought it was a beautiful movie too, with a lot of the scenic shots. Like we get a lot of like almost Lord of the Rings-esque wide establishing shots as our characters kind of move through this wilderness. So there's some beautiful like vistas. And if you're just a sci-fi fan of like worlds and kind of looking at, how the suns rise and on alien planets and what the fauna looks like, all of that is really cool. You get like the shots of like these weird cliff faces and aliens popping out and eating stuff. So like it kind of ticks all those sci-fi boxes as well. So if you're a fan of that kind of stuff.
And I would also say, if you've already determined that you hate this movie, probably don't go see it. Don't ruin everybody else's enjoyment of it. But again, if you're like kind of on the fence, like, I don't know what this, I would say go check it out. I saw a reviewer mention that he did not like that the Alan Silvestri music was not in this movie, which again, he said, oh, the music's great, but they should have had the Predator theme. This is the same reviewer I saw who was upset that the Superman theme incorporated the John Williams music. So like, some people just want to complain about something. Like, they can't just be like, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's like, no, since I'm a critic, I need to make sure I critique something.
Right. Yeah. And to your point, Brain, that was one thing that, thank you for bringing that up, I really enjoyed was the music. It matched a lot with what Alien Earth was like music wise, which I think was also Alan Silvestri. But I mentioned that in all my so we reviewed that weekly.
Alan Silvestri is a Earth composer.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Since they were in a different world, they went in a different direction.
But that series had a lot of very similar like tones and the vibe was, I thought it. So if you watch that, I think this kind of falls right in line with that. I think there is some synergy within kind of where the universe is going. If you like, I think Romulus kind of sounds a lot like that. So that is kind of unified over this new universe, but I really enjoyed the music. But yeah, that guy sounds like a kind of stick in the grass, but whatever.
Yeah, in the razor grass, no less. All right, folks, there you have it. Predator Badlands. And let us know if you see it and what you think about it. You can tell us on social media, because we are at Bulletproof Pod on X and Blue Sky, and at Bulletproof Action on Instagram and Facebook. You can also join our Facebook group, and you can check out our YouTube channel. You may be listening to this podcast on our YouTube channel right now, and if you're not already a subscriber and you haven't already clicked that notification bell, what the hell are you waiting for?
We are an hour in. If you haven't hit that like button as well, what the hell are you doing?
Oh, yeah, that's right. So there you go, folks. Also, again, don't forget the contests that are going on over at bulletproofaction.com, where you can win yourself a 4K copy of Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, and The Naked Gun. But let's talk about some recent reviews that I have done over on bulletproofaction.com, including Safe House, which is a great action thriller starring Louis Tan. And Louis Tan himself shared our review, so I definitely want to thank him for doing that. And he's got a couple new movies coming up, of course, including next year, Toyman, Mortal Kombat 2.
Looking forward to Mortal Kombat 2. And Louis Tan, that's the second Cobra Kai reference we can make here, because we just saw him in the final season as Terry Silver's protege. He was one of the main heels, and he did a great job.
He does a great, and I mentioned that in my my review of Safe House. He's just, whatever you give him to do, he's going to do a top tier level. Also checked out Exit Protocol, a new movie with Dolph Lundgren, and we are suckers for Dolph Lundgren at Bulletproof Action. Also Michael Jai White. And as this drops yesterday, I reviewed a Steven Seagal direct-to-video movie, which I think is the greatest Steven Seagal direct-to-video movie that has ever existed on the planet Earth.
That is faint praise. You do realize that, right?
I think this movie, this was not my intention to watch this movie. I had a little internet issue over the weekend, and I had to go to the physical media forever mantra, and I got myself my Steven Seagal 4-pack and check that out. So you can, I'm not going to give you the name. Go to bulletproofaction.com to see what I'm talking about. And we're going to see what the Toyman is talking about, because there's a new No Surrender Cinema coming up this week. Toyman, any teaser you want to give, or you know what it is, or are you clueless as usual?
I'm clueless whether I know what it's going to be or not, but I'm not sure what it's going to be this week. Actually, as we end this recording, I may be jumping down into the Tubi rabbit hole to see what I can find. But it's been busy around here. A lot of pro wrestling happening around here. And earlier today, we spent some time up at Casa de Cena and got to spend a nice day with John Cena Sr., a guest of the podcast who was on earlier this year. during our WrestleMania rundown. Check that episode out as well. So I have not had a whole lot of movie viewing time, so I do plan on squeezing that in between all of these wrestling ventures. But I promise, as always, no surrender cinema. For one way or another, it will be worth it. So please check it out.
Also, and as Ryan Campbell mentioned, we will be talking about The Running Man here on the podcast. I will be covering The Running Man for the website. And again, next week, right here on the podcast, we will talk the brand new Running Man. I also want to mention our friends over at $2 Late Fee, our fellow Geekscape Network podcast. They had an interview with James Liu on their most recent episode. So you want to check that out. And of course, I encourage you to check out all the Geekscape podcasts over at geekscape.net. And one day, when Toyman finally sends his picture over, we will also appear on the Geekscape.net website.
Thank you for reminding me that I need to do that. That completely has slipped my mind. I will get that over to you ASAP.
Toyman, who just loves the camera, is the last one to send a picture over.
Well, don't forget, in addition to movie reviewing and podcasting, which I love our chats, I love our recordings, I love writing for the site. I'm also on dad duty quite often. It's sometimes these things just slip by me because there's a school function, or in the case of like a wrestling event, he's becoming quite the celebrity to the local indie wrestlers, or there's
then there should
a
be
day out of the house.
paparazzi taking your picture, and you could just send one of those over.
There should be. There is actually a photographer at all of the shows that we go to that every week he will upload the photos from the week before. So I should be like, hey, can you do my Bulletproof Action headshot for me?
Right. There you go. I mean, Ryan Campbell's on dad duty. He got his in.
That's right. Yeah. I did already have one kind of in the archives from work, so I just sent that over. But yeah.
It doesn't matter. Don't get him. Let him out. You're starting to sound like Chad Cruz over there is what you're starting to sound like, Toyman. And next thing you know, we just won't hear from you anymore.
Wow. No, listen, I have been a consistent performer for the last, what has it been, 8 years? I don't think we're ever going to get to that level. Come on now.
We'll see. I hope not, but stranger things have happened. But there you go. Again, geekscape.net. Check out all the fine podcast on the Geekscape network, easy for me to say, and including our friends $2 Late Fee and James Liu. I mean, the great James Liu. He's been in 9 million movies, some of them which we've talked about here. All right, I think that's it. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining me for this Predator Badlands edition, and of course, I also want to thank the most important people, those of you listening. And as always, stay tuned for more of the Bulletproof Podcast.